They raised my price by nearly 50%. Hey, everybody, you're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust. Back with another economic report today, another dose of economic reality. Thank you so much for being here, for joining in. I really appreciate it. Back with my blue blockers. Let me clear this up. Some people are saying these are sunglasses. No, these are blue blockers. See, they're not that dark. They're not that dark. They're only slightly tinted. So I probably will get ones that are not tinted at all, but these are the best ones for a little eye condition I have. So just so you know, I'm not trying to just look cool. These are blue blockers. But let's talk about the price increase. We talk about the cost of living on this channel quite a lot, the cost of living crisis, as many call it. There's even a hashtag that's trending on social media, and it's hashtag silent depression. And people oftentimes would call me dramatic or over the top for saying that we're in Great Depression 2.0. Well, now it's a hashtag that's trending on social media. They're calling it the silent depression. Why the silent depression? Well, because many people just don't realize it, and many people wouldn't even talk about such a thing because, when you look back at the Great Depression, we saw starving people and, a lot of things like that. Now we just have alternative ways to help people out. Plastic cards, food lines, all these things, free stuff, handouts, rescue programs, all those things. So people don't think that it's happening, but it is happening. Now let's talk about my bill here, and then I've got some other pretty big news to get into today. But my bill that went up by nearly 50% is my home insurance. My home insurance. I just reported on this a few weeks ago, how homeowners were getting slammed with high insurance costs. Now, I called my company and they said, yeah, its overall costs are rising. I haven't had any claims. I haven't filed a claim in 10 years, maybe more. And they're saying, yeah, rising costs. Well, I'm like, well, the price of lumber just went down. If you look at the cost of lumber per thousand board feet, what are we down to? Let me just get you the latest number here. We're down to about $502 here recently. Now, they're looking at claims that they paid out as a company from 6 to 12 months ago. So they're taking those building costs into consideration. So that's their excuse. But I think there's a lot of companies out there that are price gouging. They're using everything we saw in 2020, the shortages, the shipping disruptions, everything else. They're using that, and also the surge in demand because of all the spending power people had. They're using that as an excuse to keep prices high. Now, many people have pointed to the automobile industry, saying that there's a huge shadow inventory of vehicles that they're not showing you so they can keep prices elevated. That may be true, that may not be true, but I definitely see just rising costs like way beyond just general inflation. Now, of course, they're telling us inflation's between 3 and 4% when I have my bill that went up 48% for my home insurance, right? So, it's all over the place. But back in 2020, let's talk about this price here. And we're talking about lumber in US dollars here per 1,000 board feet. It had spiked up to $1,500 at one point, and now we're just over $500. Now, if you go back prior to 2020, we see from 2000 to 2016, it kind of hovered around between a low of 170 to a high of about 409. So it kind of bounced around for 10 years between those two ranges. But starting in 2020, we've seen these elevated prices, but we're still down nearly 2/3 from that peak when it spiked up there in 2020 to about 1,500. But our insurance companies charging less because lumber's going down, because of course they're factoring in the cost of rebuilding the home and the cost of material, the cost of labor. Well, the cost of labor is not going down. In fact, if we look around, we see a lot of unions giving out pretty big pay raises because of the cost of living crisis. We've got airline pilots that belong to a specific union just got a 40% pay bump. We know what's happening with the automobile workers. A lot of strikes of teachers here in the recent past. So, a lot of things are adding up together to create, pretty bad mixture of things, right? The cost of living, the high cost to borrow money. I just wanted to look this up real quick. United Airlines pilots voted overwhelmingly in favor of a new contract valued at $10.2 billion. the largest ever for any U.S. airline. The 4-year agreement increases total increases total compensation by as much as 40%. United joined American Airlines and Delta in striking a deal with their pilots, leaving Southwest as the last of the 4 biggest U.S. carriers without one. Well, I think Southwest is going to be next because they're going to lose a lot of their pilots to these other airlines if they don't bump up the pay. So guess what's going to happen? The cost of traveling and taking flights is going to get a lot worse, right? So there's no end in sight for this cost of living. The more pay raises you see, the higher you're going to end up paying for your products and services. So it's a snowball, right? The workers demand more because the cost of living is too high. So then the companies have to raise their prices to pay these extra or these higher salaries, and then it just snowballs, and now they have to raise their prices, and you pay more, and you're paying more, so then you need more money at your job. So it's a never ending stair stepper, up and up and up, unless we see some sort of collapse or some disruption in the way money is given out. Will that happen? Yes, they could raise rates until something breaks. We could see a major bank fail. Of course, they're doing their best behind the scenes to keep everything liquid, to keep liquidity flowing, to keep the banks operational. We've got big banks buying out smaller banks when banks fail to kind of stamp down on the fear and the panic that bank failures sometimes cause. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. But yes, something big could break any moment. But if the system of money keeps going the way it is, we're going to see just continuous inflation. Now, we're going to talk about that more later. We're going to talk about the push to implement digital currency and for a cashless society. But first, speaking of the cost of living crisis and the need for higher wages, here in California, $20 an hour now, minimum wage for fast food workers. $20 an hour. And it's a lot more expensive out here in California than most other states. I think Hawaii might be a little more expensive, or about equal. But $20 an hour, guess what? Your Whopper, your Big Mac, whatever sandwich, whatever fast food you like, your fries, it's probably going to get increased in price. And, this is just going to make things worse because now people are going to be paying more for all these other things, insurance, food, dining out, you name it. And they're going to need raises from their employer. So they're going to be looking for higher costs. And guess what employers are going to do? Well, a lot of them are going to look to send more jobs overseas where the cost of living is a little bit lower, you see. So this causes all kinds of problems. A lot of jobs have been outsourced, especially over the past few decades here out of the United States. Why? Because cheaper labor. And why is it possible to have cheaper labor in some other countries? Because the cost of living is lower. Now, some of these countries, of course, they do take advantage of their workers when you have people working for pennies a day and sleeping at the factories that they work at. That's some pretty bad conditions are out there. But in general, lower pay is available in countries that have a lower cost of living. All right, so let's talk about this push for digital currency. Now, the controllers, the central planners, they want everyone on a digital currency. They want complete control. They don't want you buying anything outside of what they can see, what they can track, what they can trace. They don't want you using cash, cashless society. So therefore, they want this CBDC, central bank digital currency. But think about inflation the way it is now. Now we do have paper money now. We have a lot of digital money now. So we're already in the digital realm. But how much worse would it be if it was completely digital? Because at least with paper, there is a process. You have to print the paper, print the bills. You have the security, barcodes embedded in the bills now, the ink, the circulation of the paper, all these things. So there is a process to at least creating the money, even though it is fiat money. But a digital currency, that's just a click of a button, and you've just created $1 trillion. Let me just push the button right now on my keypad. Hear that? I just created $10 trillion at those pushes of a button if I was the one, issuing this currency, right? So it's going to be even worse for inflation. They're going to be able to flood the economy and, push in liquidity wherever they want to at the stroke of a keypad or a click of a mouse. So it's going to make the cost of living go up even more. If you look at the money printing as one of the causes of this high cost of living / inflation. Look out, it's going to be nightmare with the digital currency. But that's what they want to push people into. But here's some news that came out just recently regarding this central bank currency, digital currency. Recently, here, it's been about a week maybe, Congress committee passes anti central bank digital currency bill. Yesterday, the House Financial Services Committee voted in favor of the CBDC Anti Surveillance State Act, saying that these digital currencies will be a surveillance tool and a control mechanism. Do you understand? Um, there's this push for more and more control over people. So ask yourself, if you think this sounds crazy, are we getting less free or have we been getting more free over the past few decades? Have you gained more freedom or less? I'd say 99 out of 100 people would say less freedom. So that's what this is. Now, I don't think this is going to pass because it still has to get through the Senate and all the, the process of lawmaking. But it is interesting that it's at least being talked about and that there's some people out there passing bills regarding this. So pretty interesting. It still doesn't solve the big problem, which is just fiat currency in general, of course, but it could be a step in the right direction. Now, to fight back against fiat currency and money that's not backed by anything, I always say you need to keep stacking and continue to stack as much as I can. Mostly silver, just because silver's so cheap right now. Okay, let me stop being vague. Let me do the math here. $1,900, gold did dip down slightly below that, but divided by 27, roughly the ounce of silver. Wow, 70 ounces of silver right now. I could just look up the gold to silver ratio. Anyways, I didn't want to navigate to the website, so I just pulled up the calculator. But you get my point. 70 ounces of silver, give or take, for 1 ounce of gold. I'd rather stack the silver. All right. Let's talk about something else here, and that is the government shutdown. Now, there's been many, many, many government shutdowns. There's a lot of people out there saying that this next one or this current one that's on the doorstep is going to be very bad. Of course, they're pushing the fear. They're pushing the sad stories about who's going to miss their paycheck and the parks that are going to be closed and how the little kids are going to be crying outside of the park because they can't go into the park because it's these federal national parks. Well, the biggest or longest shutdown was in December 2018. It was 34 days. That was the longest. If you go all the way back to the 70s, the average shutdown was anywhere between 1 day to 8 days. That's most of the shutdowns. But the last few years, we've seen, kind of a big one there in 2018. We saw 2013 was a 16-day shutdown. In 2000, actually back to 1995, it was a 21-day shutdown. So the one in 2018 was the bigger, the longer one. So will it be an extended shutdown? Will that be the excuse to bring the economy down? Right? I'm sitting here thinking of all the ways they can bring the economy down. They don't just want to bring it down without some reason, right? Because then people will be asking, okay, what happened? Nothing triggered the stock market to crash. Nothing triggered all these banks to fail. What did they do? We're talking about, the Fed or the entities responsible for keeping the banks liquefied. People are going to be asking, where did they drop the ball? So, of course, they're going to wait for a crisis. Never let a good crisis go to waste. What will it be? Will it be some sort of power outage? Will it be something else? Will it be something with the laws, blaming the lawmakers? Or will it be some sort of justice against the perpetrators of this monetary system, right? So some big change in the law and some people get in trouble, right? We saw that in Iceland several years ago where a lot of the bankers got in big, big trouble for, basically running the scam or the Ponzi scheme that's pretty much happening right here in the U.S. on a scale unprecedented, all right? So it's going to get interesting, folks. Always keep stacking, always stack, always prepare. 30 days, food, living expenses, essential goods out of the system, out of the bank. Hopefully 6 months to be ready for what's coming. But other than that, continue to prepare because cost of living nightmare, cost of living crisis looks like it's going to get a lot worse. My insurance bill just nailed me. I'm going to do some shopping, call around different companies, right? If you don't call at least 4 or 5 different insurance companies, I think you're probably wasting a lot of money. Get some quotes. Right now, it's so easy. You go online, you get a quote, 5 or 10 minutes, even home insurance, 5 or 10 minutes for a quote, maybe 15 with some companies. So don't waste money. Hope everybody liked this economic slash financial update. Please subscribe if you like what we talk about here so we can navigate this financial chaos together. As always, we'll be back with more economic news and more doses of economic reality. Thanks everybody for watching. As always, keep stacking. Bye for now. Big love. Peace.